All right, all right. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good afternoon, good evening. Hope everyone's doing all right. Let's see. See if everything is working. Seems to be. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Herman from Kenya, love to see it, my friend. Love to see it. Fun trader after following you, love to see it. It's all because of you, my friend. Love it, love it, love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yes, we will. We will go over more information on runs versus sweeps. We will. 100%. For sure. For sure. Let's see. We're doing well. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. You're so kind. Thank you. I tried to do my best. Try to do my best. What's up, Michael? How you doing? Nick always on time. Nick always here. Always. You can't imagine a live stream without Nick. That would be crazy. Come to Argentina, bro. I would love to. One day. Hey, is candle signs and market structure enough for a profitable model? Most likely, yes. Yes, for sure. Essentially, what we're doing and the amount of videos that we'll have is 11, I believe. There will be, so that's what? How many is that? That's 7 more videos, 8 more videos. My math might not be 100% correct. But essentially what I came to realization as well is everything is about order flow. Everything. Because market structure, yes, when we zoom out, market structure is quite nice to get a direction, etc. To determine certain targets, things like that. But everything comes down to order flow. Because candle science is just order flow. Because candle science is order flow through one singular candle, essentially. So yeah. Yes. What will be the advantages in your prop firm versus others? Well, what we're aiming for, I need you to understand, with Fun and Friends, and the launch is tomorrow, by the way. I need you to understand, with Fun and Friends, our goal is not to provide you with, or to make promises like, hey, 2% profit target. Here you go, and come to us. No. Our goal is just to provide long-term stability. So you don't need to worry about rule changes, for example. You don't need to go into our social media every single week to check, oh, was there a rule that has been changed? Or, oh, is my capital at risk all of a sudden? So stability, longevity, that's our goal. That's truly our goal. And the service that we have, etc. That's the goal. So essentially the basics. We're not trying to overtake the industry with crazy promises that we can't keep. So yeah. Let's see. When is the video on flow trading plan is coming? That is, let me see. That's one of the, at the end. So that's probably somewhere late August, mid-August, something like that. We talk about market maker models. Well, the funny thing is, and I've not mentioned that in the series just yet, but everything we do has essentially incorporated all of the concepts that you know. As in, for example, market maker model, we have essentially already gone over that. But I've not specifically mentioned it, if that makes sense. So when have I gone over that? Well, if I show you right here and we go over the chart, which example did I use? I believe it was your JPY. And if we go over the 4-hour right here, then we had intermediate term highs, intermediate term lows right there. And if we go into the 15-minute, we had those short-term highs, short-term lows, etc. That essentially is a market maker model. From short-term highs at order flow ranges towards an intermediate-term low. That is a market maker model. De Bruin is a stock trader. I have no idea, my friend. No idea. Oh, you're talking about me. Okay. I get it. Let's see. What discount will be tomorrow? Tomorrow, you would have to take a look at our social media. mainly on Instagram and on the Discord as well. Your free YouTube content helped me so much to improve my trading. So from all hard work, thank you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No worries. It's the least I can do, I feel like. I don't agree with what you said about less importance of kills for Forex. I made a study. Well, that's a very general thing that you mentioned. But if you go into the 1 hour time frame and the 4 hour time frames, like I always mentioned, then kill zones are not that relevant. If you go into the 50 minute, the 5 minute, the 1 minute, yes, they are indeed very much relevant. But other than that, kill zones are not that relevant. Is summer really bad for trading, sir? Not necessarily. So to understand as well, it's like this is the last live stream that we'll have before, because in August I won't be live streaming or anything like that. And it's not necessarily bad. As in, it's not necessarily a bad thing to trade during summer. It's just mainly for me. So my data tells me it has not been very good for myself in the past years. So when I know that, then I know, okay, well, maybe it's just better to reflect on things and to take a break right there. And to then focus on the next few months, last few months in a year. So it really depends. It's a personal preference. It's also my personal data that tells me that. But other people, they really like trading in summer. Really depends. Really depends. It really depends on your personal data, on your specific data. It's not like one shoe fits all, for example. You didn't miss anything just yet. Well, not anything significant from what I can see. Good day, good day. How are you doing, my friend? How are you doing, Trader Law? It's a nice name, Trader Law. When overlapping of fair value gap considered in the first 2 episodes, it's some things are also just filtered out for simplicity's sake, as in for example's sake. For example, if I go over a video and I touch on a fair value area, already the understanding of a fair value area, for some people, may be very overwhelming. And then if I also mention, but you also need to pay attention to the fair value gap, if it's overlapping with the swing high, with the swing low right there, and if it's exactly overlapping, it's another element added on top of that, if that makes sense. So that sometimes can make it quite overwhelming. But we'll touch on it actually in one of the next few videos. Is my stop loss safe at a short-term high? Really depends on the context. Really depends on a lot of things. Yeah, exactly. Trader Law sounds mad disciplined. Yeah, Trader Law. It sounds quite cool. It's nice. Do you recommend using SMT, especially with your concepts? Any concepts that I personally don't go over in the MMC series, you don't need. I personally don't go over SMT because SMT for me is not relevant. And for some people, again, that's it depends on a lot of things, because these questions are very open, and SMT is very similar to summer trading, for example. For my trading plan, for my personal data, SMT doesn't matter, because there's always going to be SMT if I take a trade, if I take a good trade, if I take a bad trade, for me personally. So it doesn't filter anything out. It doesn't add anything relevant. But other than that, for some people, it's I see on Twitter a lot of times, it's the holy grail for some people. For me, it's not. It's not. When to exit trade? That depends. It depends. It's also a very open question, but if you start off with just a 1 to 2 hour, then it's you'll get a long way. Just focus on that. When to exit trade, just 1 to 2 hour. Thank you, Wahid. Thank you. Let's see. We will go over NAS 100. We will go over the NASDAQ. Yes, we will. We will for sure. That's very interesting, Dave. Very interesting. It's very good to know as well. Very good. Nice one. Will the MMC continue after your break? MMC just continues. So what is it? This is the last live stream because next week I will be going to the Netherlands as well. And potentially we'll have a live stream in August. Who knows? But I can't make any promises right now. And the MMC just continues throughout August. So there's no break for the MMC. It just goes on and on and on, if that makes sense. And then potentially we will have a live stream, but it's not the set Sunday live stream where every Sunday, 11 a.m. New York local time. No, not right now. Yeah, I will understand. That's a good one, actually. It's a good one. Let's dive into that as well. All right, let's dive into the forecast right here. And like Innocent mentioned right here, let's do it in terms of the MMC, what we know thus far. Now, potentially I'll go over some elements that we will touch on later on in the MMC, but that will then make sense later on as well. Okay, perfect. Now, the first thing that I want to do, and which we'll also go over later on, is actually, what is it? Is it in the next video? I believe it might be the next video, in candle size video. We go over the monthly. Start off on the monthly. And on the monthly, you do the exact same thing. So depending on what type of trader you want to be, which we'll go over later in the MMC series, that's going to determine what type of concepts you are going to use on a monthly time frame. For example, if you want to be a position trader, so a long-term trader, you want to know what the next month will do, then you're going to apply market structure on the monthly time frame. For me, that's not relevant. I just need to know what the next monthly candle or the current monthly candle wants to do. Currently, what we can see is a previous month's low sweep, potentially right there. Okay, then we can already go into the weekly. On the weekly right here, we have this weekly fair value gap going lower right there. Now, this is something we'll also touch on in the MMC. We have a fair value gap right here, which we can continue lower from, but we are sweeping into the fair value gap. Meaning we have a sweep running against the fair value gap right there. So either we are going to sweep this low to continue higher, or we are going to have a deeper retracement into this fair value gap to then continue lower right there. Now, for next week, I like to have a target at least the previous week high right there. If we start running that high. So on the daily, for example, if we start to create a daily order flow lag right here, higher, then for me, that is a sign that we do want to continue higher right there. I'm leaning more towards higher prices at this moment in time than lower prices. And I would like to see a run above this high. So we had a question earlier as well. What is a run versus a sweep? Well, if we go into the 4-hour time frame, for example, then currently we see that we are sweeping highs. And sweeping highs is seen through two lenses, either through order flow or through candle signs. When we talk about it in an order flow perspective, or in a candle signs perspective, let's start off with that first, then that's simply a wick right there. We are wicking highs and we are wicking lows right there. So we're sweeping both sides. When we're talking about an order flow perspective, then it would be a close, a fair value gap above a high. So for example, this high right there, well, let's use this high right there. This high, we have a fair value gap above the high created right there. That's the first indication that we do want to run it to continue higher. So if we can create a fair value gap right here overlapping with this high, then we can potentially continue higher off of that. That's exactly what I'm looking at. That could be quite interesting. In the meantime, it's for me mainly waiting right here. Now, let's also have a backup plan. If we do continue lower right here and we need to react right there, then a daily value gap to continue lower off of would be ideal. So again, those daily order flow lags. In very simple terms, if you struggle with direction in price, if you struggle with bias, then you simply always wait for a daily order flow lag to trade off of. Nothing more. That's it. So if you struggle with bias and you struggle with direction and you don't want to get into the specifics and things, or just as a beginner to start off, simply wait for order flow lags going higher or lower. And that's it. And that will tell you the direction, that will give you the bias. That is 9 out of 10 times extremely accurate as well. For example, right here, order flow going higher, order flow going higher, order flow going higher, order flow going lower. It's not that difficult if you just follow order flow lags right there. Okay, then understanding that ideally, I would like to see indices or the dollar moving higher right there. We can move on to the indices as well. Now, Russell came into this, and you can see the accuracy. It's especially on indices. Indices will have really good accuracy regarding fair value areas, regarding fair value gaps as well, regarding candle signs respect, for example. We have this fair value area right there, which we are respecting absolutely beautiful. Now, we have a daily value gap going against us. Then on the 4 hour, we can see we are disrespecting this daily value gap right there. This 4 hour value gap lower is not that interesting to continue lower off of. Overall, the bias is still to continue higher. Then here, we have order flow lags going higher, where we have this fair value gap right there as well, which we can again continue higher off of right here, which we are currently respecting to target this high to eventually target that high right there. In my opinion, Russell higher prices. Now, this is where it becomes quite tricky because ES, NASDAQ, even YM, we could argue, they are contradicting what Russell wants to do at this moment in time, potentially. Because if we take a look at NASDAQ and ES, we could argue that we might see actually lower prices because we've been moving lower very, very aggressively right here. So on the weekly, what do we have? Well, we have a weekly value gap that we're running into right there. That's good to know because that's resistance. Something we will go over in the what is it? In the fair value gap video. That's after narrative. So what is that? The 6th video, I believe. But where do fair value gaps get created? Fair value gaps get created at previous fair value gaps, at previous resistance areas. So here, this fair value gap is what we can now sting back into to potentially continue lower as well. NASDAQ, very similar. Just overall a little bit different price action because it's already lower than ES. But exact same thought process applies. Daily fair value gap right there. And what is that? That's simply, again, a daily order flow lag to potentially continue lower off of. Now, the tricky part is that eventually you will notice if you only follow daily order flow lags, you might get it wrong 1 or 2 times. And that is because it's not in context necessarily at all times within the weekly order flow lags and the monthly order flow lags. And that's quite important to understand as well. But that's, again, the next step higher. All right, YM. So if we take a look at YM, we're running into this weekly fair value gap right there. Now, the weekly fair value gap in itself, in my opinion, is already lower probability because, again, we have a sweep going back into the weekly value gap. If we do want to continue higher right here, then we currently have nice rejection out of it on the 4 hour. This, at this moment in time, is a fair value area. I mark it at the bodies because there's no fair value gap overlapping. If we want to continue higher, it looks very nice to continue higher right here as well. DAX. Now, since the indices in general, so YM has been moving higher more aggressively, same for Russell, ES and NASDAQ moving lower more aggressively. DAX is the long lost brother. As in, DAX is related, yes, but it's going to follow the other indices. So DAX doesn't really have its own mind. It's always going to follow what the other indices are doing right there. That leads, if one of the indices are going lower, the other are going higher, that leads overall to consolidation on DAX. So fair value gaps right here are not very trustworthy in a consolidation. That's very important to understand. Now, if we do want to continue higher, let's see if we can get a proper confirmation on this 4 hour value gap to then continue higher off of that as well. Again, require more confirmation because it's just a bigger consolidation that DAX is still in as well. Australian dollar, US dollar. Now, with the dollar not being too clear on what it wants to do right now, it's of course a bit tricky. But one thing that I do like is that we have a fair value area right here with this fair value gap sitting right there as well, which we can potentially, of course, continue lower off of. So that does look quite interesting. I do like that right there. If we can create a retracement into that, I would be looking for a potential entry right there as well. Euro, US dollar. So right here, very similar. Daily fair value gap right there. But again, since the dollar has been consolidating, we have not been having an immediate rejection lower off that, or at least not a new fair value gap, new expansion phase lower off of that. If we can get the proper confirmation again. So a 4 hour fair value gap right here to continue lower off of could again be quite interesting overall for lower prices. I do quite like it. Targeting lower fair value gaps sitting right there as well. GU. So GU, very similar to EU. it's still quite tricky to look at short at this moment in time because we're running into a fair value area, running into a fair value gap. We're running into actually a nested fair value area right here as well. So if we are going to continue higher, then it's from this exact place. We might sweep the previous week low to then still see a push higher. Now, the reason why that is quite tricky right there is because overall, we do not have a clear rejection just yet. So I would prefer actually potentially lower prices. So I have a plan, a step-by-step plan. And that step-by-step plan is simply waiting, seeing if we run this low right here. And if we run the low, we can, excuse me, we can just continue lower off of that right there. If that does not happen, and we either continue higher already, or we sweep the low with fair value gaps again, on the 4-hour time frame, ideally right there, then we can look at higher prices instead. So it's, again, a simple step-by-step plan action, as in if we create fair value gaps higher right here already, or after the sweep right there, perfect. We can just look at higher prices for the remainder of the week. If that does not happen, we run this low, fair value gap below that low right there, we can just look at lower prices right there. So step-by-step plan, make sure you are reacting, very important. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. What are we doing? Quite a clear drawn liquidity in my eyes, right there, that low. And even with the dollar continuing higher a little bit, this has been very, very much bearish. So this low right here, quite a clear target. Then afterwards, we have this low as well. So our job at this moment in time is just to find a clear premium array. In other words, a clear fair value gap or fair value area that we can continue lower from. That fair value gap that we have right there. If we already create a new 4-hour value gap to continue lower off of, that could also be used to then continue lower towards the lower target right there. Does look quite interesting because the drawn liquidity, the bias, the direction is just very clear. US dollar, Canadian dollar. Let's see. On the monthly, that is a swing high that we have reached. Now that swing high and swing highs that we take, they turn into fair value areas. So here on the weekly as well, taking that swing high, of course. Then on the weekly, we could be creating a daily or a weekly value gap, excuse me. Now on the daily, it's not necessarily too clear, but we do have this fair value area, nested fair value area with the fair value gap right there, which we might want to continue higher off of. Let's wait and see if we can continue higher off of that. In the meantime, I want to wait because the discount array here is just not too clear in my eyes. And what I mean by that is not too clear the narrative area, what we can continue higher off of in the bullish direction, because I do think this is going to be bullish right here as well, heading into next week. US dollar CHF, quite interesting because this has been going lower actually, whilst the dollar has been, well, not necessarily moving higher, but consolidating for a little bit. So here, if we can, and we already see it right here actually. So let me mark this out properly. We have this daily fair value gap right there. Let's remove the fair value gaps that we have on the lower time frame. We have this low right there. Perfect. On the 4-hour, what do we see? On the 4-hour, we have an order flow lag right here going higher towards this daily fair value gap, which could be quite interesting to trade into. Now let's actually dive into the 1-hour time frame. Do we have anything? Not just yet. So I was looking at if we can also have an order flow lag, a 1-hour fair value gap going higher right here on the 1-hour, which we don't have just yet. So if we can wait for that, and then we can create that right there to then target the daily value gap, could be very interesting. Again, I do like it. I do like it. US dollar JPY, daily fair value gap, which we are currently respecting. Now overall, don't necessarily like it. Not the biggest fan, especially if the dollar is going to continue higher for a little bit right here. Then it's not very likely that we are going to respect this fair value gap right here. So personally, I would actually prefer looking at higher prices instead of lower prices. So not too interested in US dollar JPY. Silver. Now this is quite interesting. And pay attention to where these fair value gaps get created. Because fair value gaps don't necessarily get created at very random areas. Fair value gaps get created at areas where we previously had a resistance area. So what I mean by that is, what is resistance? Resistance is unmitigated opposing PD arrays. So if we are going to continue lower, premium arrays are holding according to order flow, because every PD array in a bearish order flow lag is a premium array. So all the discount arrays that have not been traded into, I specifically mentioned have not been traded into, are going to be resistance areas. Now, the reason why that is so important to understand and the reason why so many people get this wrong is because then they learn about something like fair value gaps that have already been tapped into before. For example, this right here. This fair value gap is the least relevant fair value gap in the world. It's not relevant at all. This fair value gap towards the left right here that has already been traded into once is not relevant at all. Those fair value gaps that have been traded into one time are mitigated, they are ignored. They are just as good as support and resistance areas where you can mark out a random line on your chart right there and you say, okay, well, perfect. And look at the respect right there. Wow, beautiful. Look at this. The consolidation around that level. That's because there's the support and resistance. No, it's plainly said bullshit. So if we want to continue lower, fair value gaps get created at previous unmitigated areas. That means this low has not been traded back into before. Where do we get rejections? This low right here. Where does the fair value gap get created? Where does the fair value gap? Where do we sting into it? Because we react off of this level to that level to then continue lower. We react off of this level to then this level, because this is now an order flow leg, to then continue lower off of that. That's order flow. That's where PD rays get created, etc. But if you now start adding random PD rays to your chart, which we don't mention in the MC series, then you're going to mess it up. Then it doesn't work anymore. You're going to lose all the accuracy. Very important to understand, by the way. All right. So lower prices off of that silver fair value gap right there. That looks beautiful. It looks absolutely beautiful. All right. Gold. Now gold. Where do these fair value gaps get created again? Here on the weekly time frame, we have this weekly resistance area right there in the form of that fair value gap. Why do we get a rejection? Because we're coming off of a weekly fair value gap right there. That's also the reason why we then can trade back into a daily fair value gap like this right there. I do not like how big the rejection here is, but I do think we can overall look to continue lower. Because again, this for me is just a bump in the road to reach the eventual drawn liquidity in the form of this low right here. Very similar to this daily value gap. Why have I marked out this daily value gap? Because I know we might see a rejection and that's where we create a fair value gap. Boom, boom. It's a ping pong effect. It's like, okay, ping pong, ping pong. Now the dangerous part is if the ping pong effect is too big and the rejections are very large, then we get something like this, where bullish strength is just as strong as bearish strength. But the reason we can continue lower is because the rejections off of bullish fair value gaps right there are weaker than the rejections off of bearish fair value gaps. That's the basis of a trending ID. That will lead to you understanding when a consolidation is happening, when we can continue lower, when we are actually looking at a trending ID. It goes very in depth actually when I think about it, but it's very interesting. Makes a lot of sense. So here we have this daily value gap, which we can potentially continue lower from right there. But this daily value gap, I would want to see a little bit more confirmation than usual. On the 4 hour, we can also see we actually have 4 hour order flow going against us right there. So make sure you require a little bit more confirmation right here. Potentially 4 hour value gap to continue lower off of. But I do like it for lower prices throughout next week as well. Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin, I believe, can continue higher right here. And this is looking like a breakaway gap, but again, Bitcoin is quite unpredictable in that sense. Now, right here, if this is a breakaway gap, I would not want to see a retracement back into it. So even if we do get a retracement back into it, again, it's not interesting. But right here, if we can already continue higher off of this daily value gap, for example, right there, or even already higher prices of the 4 hour right there, could be very interesting to look to target higher. I do believe that Bitcoin will reach all-time highs again right there, even if it wants to continue lower and we will see a big rejection lower right there, then I believe we will still see at least a sweep of that high to then continue lower. But this level, in my opinion, is bound to get reached again right there. All right, crude oil. So crude oil, we had a weekly value gap actually going against us right there. We also have this weekly value gap right here. Now, if we then go with that into the lower time frame, into the daily time frame. On the daily time frame, not the nicest price action. We do have a potential sweep right there, like we saw when running into the weekly value gap as well. On the 4 hour, we have this 4-hour move higher right there. Now, we are fully disrespecting that. I believe we can continue lower on crude oil, but I'm just simply waiting for a clear pre-raise, so a clear fair value gap to continue lower off of, which we currently don't have yet. But that's what I'm waiting for. Could also be quite interesting, but it's waiting. Bank Nifty, we have reached this weekly fair value gap right there. Again, Bank Nifty, in my opinion, can also still reach all-time highs right there. And just waiting for a proper rejection off of fair value gaps. And this right here is a nice 4-hour value gap, a nice beginning. But I want to see this get respected right there to then potentially continue higher towards the new all-time high as well. Overall, I'm still bullish on Bank Nifty. All right, perfect. Let's see. Why change your goal to the futures? So this was previously this one right here. And the reason why I changed that is because futures price action, if you can use it, for example, for the indices as well, is the quote-unquote official price action, if that makes sense. So it's a lot more accuracy. So when I mentioned, for example, Russell, the fair value area right here that got respected, this is what you'll see a lot more on futures, a lot more accuracy than you'll get on Forex, for example. And since something like Forex.com is not the official price action, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me anymore why I didn't just look at the futures right there. If that makes sense. All right, let's see. Finally, I catch at least one stream. Welcome, my friend. Welcome. welcome. I'm looking at silver and actually the price traded back into the weekly fair value gap. Let's see. This one. Yeah, right there. Correct. USA survey up as Ario. What will I watch? Well, we're almost done, so you might as well go ahead and start a USA survey. How to work with Ario team? Well, if we are looking for people, you can always reach out. info@ario.io. So let me put that on the screen as well. Right here. Right there. Well, we're not always looking for people. Will MC be enough as full training plan regarding techno part? Yes, 100%. Yes. You can build onto it. Yes, for sure. What's up, Hope? How you doing? Good to see you. GBJPY, let's see. GBJPY is in an interesting position. I actually took a quick look at it as well. I believe yesterday. Here we are. We have reached a swing low right there on the weekly. Now on the daily, we have this daily fair value gap, which we can potentially continue lower off of. So it's again quite stuck right there. And what I want to see on the 4-hour then, okay, can we create a new fair value gap below the low? So that is below this line right here. Or above this high right there. And then it could be quite interesting. Overall, I'm still bearish. So I prefer lower prices right here on GBJPY. Do you use indicators? I don't. Well, we're actually looking at indicators. So one of them is an MMT indicator for the arguments. But other than that, I don't use indicators. They are just simply there to help you, to understand what the price action is telling you. But it's not something like an RSI or a MACD, something like that. Let's see. How much news we need for swing trading? Well, divided throughout the week, I would at least want 2 news events for that currency. So for example, if we're looking to trade something like JPY, and it's really reliant on JPY moving, so not US dollar JPY, because then I would say it's more reliant on US dollar. I want at least 2 news events for that currency, ideally. So for JPY, one on Tuesday, for example, one on Thursday. Perfect. It's enough volatility throughout the week to get you to a certain destination. Tomorrow's launch day. Yes. It very much is so. Let me see. My camera's not working. There it is. Hello. There it is. How can my chart look like yours? I actually have, I'll put it in the chat right here. If you go to ario.io / where's my slash? There it is. Chart right there. Then you can actually see my chart colors, etc. If that's what you mean, if that's what you're referring to. Can I have your opinion about next trading week according to news? For sure. Let me see. Let's see. What are we dealing with? Okay. All right, perfect. Let's see. What do we have here? On, well, Monday, there's no news. So Monday for me is then just, well, we could argue it's a little bit of a chill day. We don't really have to do anything specific. We can start a real forecast on Monday. That's what I like to do in the MMT right there. You save a little bit of energy, you save a little bit of focus. So your trading week essentially starts on Tuesday. So Tuesday is where it gets interesting because we have some Euro red folder news, US dollar red folder news as well, Australian dollar CPI right there. Quite a lot of news actually, quite interesting. So Monday or Tuesday, sorry, looks good. Looks good for Australian dollar. Trade after it, Australian dollar. So trade after 9:30 p.m. That's New York local time. US dollar right there. Looks good for the whole day. Same for Euro right there as well. Okay. Then Wednesday, we have some JPY and Australian dollar news carrying over to Wednesday because they are very late during the day. So they carry over towards the next day. That's where the main volatility for those pairs is going to be. Then here we have, what do we have? Also some more CPI for Euro. Interesting. Then we have some non-farm employment change. That means on Friday we have NFP. FOMC statement as well. Okay, that changed a little bit right there for the US dollar because FOMC statement is something we want to take into account. And also, ideally the day before. That actually makes it quite a difficult news week. Because I have a rule. And I like to have this rule because a day before a big three news event, which is FOMC statement, which is NFP, which is CPI, I like to not trade. And the reason for that is because I want to see what I want to do, and usually it tends to be a consolidation, or it can be a consolidation. Let me put it that way. The probability is that it can be a consolidation. It's not always the case, but it can be. So Tuesday, Wednesday right there, not that interesting for me to trade. Then Thursday right there is the day ahead of NFP. So it's also not that interesting to trade. So US dollar throughout this week is, for me, not that interesting. Is mainly going to be interesting after NFP release. That's most likely also where we'll see the majority of the movement happen. Now, that does not mean, for example, Australian dollar and the crosses could be quite interesting. So Australian dollar, yes, I do like that. Something like Australian dollar JPY, for example. Let's see. Euro, some more news as well. Canadian dollar, GBP news right there as well. Okay. I mainly like Euro. I like Australian dollar. I like JPY right there. So if we know that, then for example, if we go to the crosses right here, this list, then Australian dollar JPY right here could be quite interesting because there's a lot of volatility coming into this market next week. So that brings opportunity with it. Let me know if that makes sense. But regarding US dollar, don't necessarily like it. What are the benefits of your light version mentorship over YouTube contents? You have daily forecasts, so you don't just have a Sunday forecast. You have weekly breakdowns. You have new enrollments. New enrollments, for example, one enrollment that's coming to the light version. Light is candle science enrollment. You already have foundation enrollment and advanced enrollment, which we go over more concepts that I don't go over in the YouTube as well in a more structured way. And candle science enrollment also things that we don't go over on YouTube. So there's all kinds of things that are in the mentorship that are not in the YouTube. You can always reach out to info@ario.io if you do want more information on that as well. Regarding that. And you also have recorded live sessions. Let's see. I can't find a way to trade order blocks on low indices on the lower time frame, only liquidity sweeps, but I really like order block. I can only trade PM session. What could you advise? As in, what is the reason why you can't trade order blocks? That would be my first question. What is the reason why? After MSC, when can we expect the world of fair value gaps? Probably later this year. Potentially, let's November, October, something like that. Later on this year. Should we continue trading using previous concepts, or you're introducing new one in MC series? I never introduced new concepts. It's very important to understand. There's never new concepts. They just add on to previous concepts understandings as well. But you can use MC as a baseline and then build onto that with the concepts that we also have. So, but the reason why I mentioned that is because it won't be too confusing, as in it all connects with one another. So even though it's different concepts, they all connect with one another. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. Yeah, I know, Rodrigo. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I'm new. Welcome, my friend. Welcome. GBP Australian dollar. Let's see. So we have Australian dollar news. We also have some GBP news, which makes it quite interesting. I actually have this, I believe I have this on my interest already. And the reason why is because we have a very nice fair value area sitting right here, overlapping with the fair value gap. This is running high, what we're currently seeing. Notice where the fair value gap gets straight back into. It's because of this high right there. Very interesting again. But if we can get this retracement into this fair value area right there, for example, during Australian dollar CPI, then Wednesday could be very interesting to trade right here. So pay attention to Wednesday for GBP Australian dollar. That looks nice. Looks nice. Let's see. How was your trading this week? Was alright. Took one trade. And why can't I show this? Anyway, I took one trade, and that trade was on Canadian dollar JPY. So the reason why we went over the example in the MMC was also simply because I took a trade ID right there. So usually the examples that we go over are also mentioned already beforehand. Otherwise, it's like, you go over hindsight things. And then sometimes I get that someone tells me, you go over hindsight things. Yes, but you forgot to mention that everything was already called out before I go over that example. But anyway, here on Canadian dollar JPY, we have this daily value right there. We have a very clear drawn liquidity, this low right here. Beautiful. Order for legs, continuing lower. On the 4 hour right here, we have this value gap right there, respecting it, beautiful. Then on the 1 hour, we have this fair value gap sitting right here, respecting it beautifully. So it's fair value gap into fair value gap into fair value gap. It's absolutely beautiful price action. And afterwards, my entry was, I'm not 100% certain, to be honest. It was around here, right there. Around here. And I covered this high and I targeted a 122. This was the entry right there. Targeting lower. That was my entry for the week. Natural gas, for sure. See. I'm not sure if this is exact because it's FXCM, but we'll take a look. What are we doing? On the monthly, seems like we want to continue lower a little bit towards that low, disrespecting the week, monthly value gap, excuse me. On the weekly, running into, well, this is a very clear target right there, that low at least. Next resistance area is this fair value gap. Okay, daily, I do believe we can already continue lower right here of the 4 hours, so we might already see some price action like this right here. And this low turns into a fair value area right there, which we can then continue lower off of to target lower lows right there as well. Does look quite nice, especially for lower prices. Looks quite interesting. Can you show me an example of order blocks on 1 minute time frame in PM session on Indices? Let's see. Let's see if we can find them. Let's look at ES. Well, let's actually look at NASDAQ. I like NASDAQ more personally. In the PM session. Okay. Well, one very early one that I can already see is we have this one right here. That's an order block. Then we have this one, which we don't trade back into. Then we have not this one. Very late, at least. Let's see, previous day. What do we have? What do we have? We have a few fair value areas sitting right here. We have this order block right there as well. Again, focus on those fair value areas, I would argue. Not necessarily the need to call it an order block or something like that. Fair value areas right there. This one right there. With the previous day. What do we have right here? Here we have a few. We have right there. Which you could argue it's still AM session, by the way. We have this one. We also have a nested one inside right there. And after we have this one right here. But we also have this bigger one right there. It's quite a few, I would argue. Quite a few right there. Please respond. Where is the next sensitive part on the fair value area if the overlapping has been mitigated? We'll go over that in the MC series. But to draw it out as well. If the fair value area has been mitigated. So we have, for example, draw it like this. The fair value area is gone right there. Then we still have potentially a fair value gap in the middle somewhere, etc. But if we have something like this, a rejection, fair value gap going higher. This creates an order flow leg going higher right there. Then the sensitive areas are actually, it becomes bullish right there. So this high, for example, becomes a target. So the lot is not necessarily always something we want to trade off of. It's also something we want to target, actually. If that makes sense. Are we expecting more video on MC this week? Next week. So Wednesday and Saturday mainly. The candle after an expansion candle is mostly consolidation or reversal, in my opinion. Your thoughts? That is correct. That is correct. And that depends on if we still have a clear target. But the reason why that is because we create a fair value gap. And price already takes into account a fair value gap to trade back into it, have an easier path, so it doesn't leave anything that's not fair value behind. And then we can continue lower or continue higher. If it's, of course, a bullish fair value gap. Can we trade on Mondays? You can. If you're just starting out, try experimenting with not trading Mondays and not trading Fridays. So focusing on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Those are known as trending days. Mondays and Fridays are generally speaking known as consolidations. So if you struggle with that, then yeah. Will be more order flow videos. Yes, as in everything is based around order flow. So essentially everything that we're going to go over has something to do with order flow. What's up, Sean? How are you doing? Always great to see Sean. That's insane. Sean and Don as well, I saw, by the way. People that have been here for a very, very long time. And Super Chris, I remember. It's insane. Absolutely insane. Anyway, let's see. Let's see. Eric, can you please explain internal range liquidity with external range liquidity? What's the difference to the normal liquidity, or are they the same? If using 15-minute entries, how does one use it? We call it as context, internal range liquidity and external range liquidity. That's essentially the same. So external range liquidity and internal is the same. Or it's not the same. Let me explain it. So internal range liquidity is a fair value gap. Because a fair value gap sometimes is also referred to as liquidity. That's where new orders can get added, etc. Things like that. Just depending on what kind of theory you use. Then the external range liquidity is that high right there. Is a swing point. Now, to make it easier to understand, it's also known as a context area. And when you have context, then the liquidity is always going to be swing points, if that makes sense. Which kindly show how to do the last video's homework, was trying out to do it. What is the last video's homework? It's order flow, right? Yeah, order flow. What is the homework in that? It is something with case studies. That's quite sad. I forgot my own homework. Let me actually check. It's just checking the order flow lags, no? On the daily time frame, I believe. That's just, well, that's quite straightforward, I would argue. That's just going over the daily time frame and just seeing where the order flow lags are and where they are not. And then seeing what we continue lower from. So for example, right here, this fair value gap or this order flow lag, we go higher off the fair value gap. It's interesting to study. Here we have a deep retracement into the fair value area to then continue lower. Fair value area to then continue lower. Here this fails, so it doesn't have a new order flow lag lower right there. Creates a new order flow lag higher right there. That's it. There's no perfect way to do a case study. I've created a video on it as well. It's a link in the description in the videos. I need advice either to join the MMT next month, August, or September because of summer price action. That's totally up to you. My argument would be, but that might be biased, use August to study. August is not necessarily, because August is not necessarily where I take a break. It's where I reflect. It's where I study things. And then afterwards, I come back almost refreshed right there. So take the same path. August, use August as studying, for example. And then diving into September, ready to go. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. I appreciate that. No worries. I was just looking at got a little bit distracted. Nvidia, let's do it. Let's do it. Always nice to look at stocks. I like it. What are we doing? The first thing I noticed is that we have a monthly value gap that we're sticking back into. This one right here. All right, on the weekly, what do we have? Well, currently, the only thing that we have is that monthly value gap that we can potentially continue higher from. Let's see if we can get good confirmation of that. Daily value gap right there. We can disrespect that to then continue higher. Could be very interesting. Could be very interesting. Price always moving towards PDR. It's our job to find out which PDR is next. You got it. You got it, my friend. You paid attention. It's very funny because that is it's quite a simple sentence, but so important. It's so important because it starts everything. It makes a lot more sense if we then move on to order flow, market structure, etc. Because a lot of people will just watch the market structure or the order flow video. Yeah, it doesn't really help. It's a series for a reason, right? Let's see. Love to see it, Sean. I appreciate it a lot, man. Thank you. What happens in August? Nothing really. Don't worry about it. Nothing crazy. It's just, generally speaking, August price action can be a little bit slower or consolidating. But again, that's generally speaking. There will still be times where it's a really high probability as well. Dogs outside. Yes. yeah. Yes, my 2 dogs. All right. I'm going to end it here, team. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Again, like mentioned, this is the last stream before summer break in August. I tend to be less active. Now, MMC still goes on. So it's still video every Wednesday, every Saturday. until the end of August when the series ends. Potentially there's a live stream in August as well, but I'll keep you updated through Instagram, through Telegram as well. And who knows as well. Tomorrow, Fun and Friends launch, which I'm very excited for as well. And of course, the MMT, we go on and on and on and on. All right, it's perfect. Thank you, everyone. Love you all. See you at the next one. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.